Mr. Yonke. So you remember that time that I was working as a clinical pharmacist practitioner at the VA? Loved my job, was really good at it. And one day, I'm like dealing with a fucking super abusive guy who is my baby dad. He also raped me to get me pregnant. Like, he's been abusing me for about 10 years. No biggie. It's just one of those things women deal with on the daily, right? Whatevs. So I'm like, you know, running for safety for my life with my two daughters to go stay in a fucking hotel instead of my house that I own that he doesn't own, but I had to get out of my own house to escape him. So we go and stay at the Marriott, that new fucking hotel in town. Me and my two kiddos, daughters. And we stayed there for 4 days. And Brenna completed all her assignments. She did her frickin' shoebox project, whatever it was at the time, in that hotel. And then I have to check out of the hotel and get to work by 8 a.m. this one Thursday morning in November of 2023. And I am on the 4th floor taking multiple flights down the stairs, actually, to get our shit out the door and into the car to pack up, to get both of my kids into the car and all of our suitcases and shit so that I can get one of them to the Y and the other one to KMS and then myself to the VA by 8. I'm running late. It didn't happen. It was a rough morning. So I drop my one off. I get Brenna to KMS. It was 8:01 when we pulled into the parking lot. Brenna was hysterical. She sobbed bloody murder because they were going to give her a lunch detention for that tardy. She knew it. She knew she was going to get a lunch detention, and she was fucking terrified. So she refused to go. She would not get out of my car. She said, absolutely not. I'm not going. I'm not going. She wouldn't go. So I'm like, fuck. I have to go to work. Literally have a patient discharging at 10 a.m. who I am responsible for getting all of his stuff together and educating him, and he's on like 40 meds. I need to help him. And I have 2 hours to get him out the door safely because veteran transport system is going to arrive at 10. I got to go to work. So I'm like, I don't know what to do. She won't go to school. There's nothing I can do. And she's terrified to go into the school because of their lunch detention policy, which I had the lunch detention policy that I had already gone over in depth with Garbalia and told her that I do not consent to my daughter being given a fucking lunch detention for no fucking reason. There's no reason to give my child a lunch detention and penalize my child for tardies when I'm the one who dropped her off late. I said, I'll come and sit the fucking lunch detention if you really need to punish someone. If you guys always need to punish someone. But nope. We have to. That's what she said. So, anyway, I fucking brought my daughter to work with me. I let her sit in my spare desk in my office for about 20 minutes or so because I didn't know what else to do, and I wasn't going to force her to go into school. I wasn't going to fucking, my daughter's crying. I'm a mom. I love my kids. I don't let the state torture them and punish them for no fucking reason. Like, I'm not into that. I'm like a protective mother who doesn't allow, especially like men, to abuse my daughters. So, or women. Like some of you. So, yeah, I decided that I would allow my daughter to come sit in my office with me briefly because I needed to go to work. You know what happened? They fired me for that. Yeah. The U.S. government, they fired me for bringing my daughter into my office for 20 minutes. And the only reason I did that was because the school system was going to punish her. And I didn't agree with it. Yeah. You know what happens to a single mom who's surviving abuse and trying to actively escape abuse and then falls victim to more abuse that is actually state sanctioned and government sanctioned abuse and misogyny? You know what happens to women like me? Apparently we get sent out on the streets. JK, I'm cool. I fucking had to drain my 401k so I could pay the mortgage with it. And then I didn't want to go back to work because I discovered all the pharmaceutical fraud and all the fucking bullshit behind pharmacy that I already knew about, but it really fucking tipped me over the edge. I already was fucking pretty burnt out on pharmacy anyway, because I'd been working in it since 2008 and all I've seen is fucking people getting hurt. The system is fucking whack. All of it. And you can't tell me that if I went to school, got my doctorate, I've spent 18 years working in this field of medicine that I dedicated my heart and soul to. I spent all of Brenna's upbringing. I mean, I literally had a baby during pharmacy school. And I was the only single mom in pharmacy school in my entire graduating class. And I somehow fucking survived it. And you're acting like, you know, I don't have a pot to piss in, but actually, like, I do. I know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about, and I have every fucking reason to hate the school system. The fact that I was able to go through, get my doctorate, and then come out on the other side and realize that they lie, that they don't teach about pharmaceutical fraud, that they don't teach about hazardous drugs being in the fucking waterways, that they don't teach about the fact that not only are the hazardous drugs in the waterways, but they cause fucking cancer and birth defects and endocrine disruption, which is like thyroid fucking disease and shit. And the pharmacies are doing absolutely nothing to deal with this problem. Nothing. Everywhere I've worked, literally USP 800 didn't even go into effect until 2019. 2019! I was graduating pharmacy school in 2019, and I was like, what? Why are we just caring about occupational exposure? Why would we just start caring about occupational exposure in 2019? So, also, another point to make on that. I had hazardous exposure to drugs in 2012 when I was pregnant with Brenna at Stru's Pharmacy in Green Bay. I was filling blister packs with my bare hands in the pharmacy. That was how everybody did it. That's what we were told to do. I was only 20. I didn't fucking know. Just did whatever they told me to do. And so I went in and fucking complied, just like we're supposed to do. You go, get a job, do whatever they tell you to do. Those are the two things that you're supposed to do in life. So that's what I did. Guess what? I handled methotrexate. I was fucking pregnant. And they didn't even tell me you're not supposed to fucking handle that until after the fact. I had already worked there. I started there in January 2012. It was fucking May 31st, 2012 that I was returning methotrexate to the shelf. And then they told me, by the way, you shouldn't touch that one unless you wear gloves. But don't worry, it's only a big deal if you're a woman of childbearing age because it can cause birth defects. And I was like, what? I'm pregnant. Nobody even fucking knew I was pregnant till that moment because I started fucking crying at work. And then I had to leave and go get an emergency ultrasound. And then I had to have extra monitoring my entire pregnancy because there was risk that she would have like severe spinal defects, and luckily she didn't. Well, first of all, luckily she wasn't spontaneously aborted, because that can happen when you even just touch the drug. But then it's great that she survived it. She didn't end up with major spinal bifida when she was born, but she did develop scoliosis at age 13. And that can happen with methotrexate exposure. It's actually so insidious that you don't, it affects your like spinal ligaments so subtly though when you're a baby. Doesn't appear, the birth defect doesn't actually appear until that major growth spurt happens during puberty. So yeah, hardworking girl over here. I was like a straight A student at KHS, and Mr. Kriegel wrote my letter of recommendation. Mark Ellingson, who like owned the drugstore, he wrote my letter of recommendation. I forget who else, but Mr. Bertoli was my buddy. My locker was right next to his room. Yeah, loved him. But you know, hardworking girl. I was on the Envirothon team. Our team won first place in the state for setting up clotheslines for our Envirothon team. Because I've always been an environmental activist. So I guess I think it's funny, you know, the school system is like, take this placement test and you're going to figure out what's the best career path for you. You're good at math, you're good at science, straight A student, academic, pharmacist. Yeah. Oh, you want to go into healthcare and help people? Pharmacist. For sure. It's a perfect fit. And I worked at the drugstore in high school, so I'm like, yeah, pharmacist. And like I wholeheartedly believed for many years that I was like following the right path. Otherwise, why would I keep doing it, right? Why would I even go into pharmacy school? But I believed in it, and I did it. And I went to pharmacy school, and pharmacy school fucking sucked. So bad. Just torture. But made it through alive, made it out the other side, and yeah. Apparently, it's just part of the job that you get birth defects for your kids. I mean, they don't really put that in the fine print when you learn about it in high school, but you just learn about it the hard way when your kid gets birth defects, you know? And it's like interesting too because nobody even realizes this shit because pharma intentionally makes it not something that is talked about. It's not made a big deal about. People don't draw the connections. And people don't realize too, like methotrexate, the drug that I was exposed to, that can cause, it's well documented to cause birth defects through passive exposure. So passive, we're talking skin contact with the drug can cause birth defects, right? And that's well known, well documented. Published by OSHA, by NIOSH, Hazardous Drugs List, USP 800. Look into all three of those things. It's there. So it's there. It's publicly documented that passive exposures, not just to that one drug, but to many, many drugs on the list, the NIOSH Hazardous Drug List, can cause birth defects and cancer and endocrine disruption through passive exposure levels. What's interesting that they don't highlight on, because those lists are specific to occupational exposure. They don't talk at all about, oh yeah, P.S., when people take the drugs like normal, regular people, and then they go home and flush their toilet when they're done, it actually ends up back in the shared community aquifers. And hazardous drugs, so the drugs end up in the community aquifer. And then it's so prevalent in our water supply at this point that drugs have been documented in rivers literally worldwide. Google it. Drugs in the waterways. They're fucking everywhere. It's so prominent that it is found in rain and snow. There's no fucking turning back. And like I said, these drugs are already documented to cause problems at passive exposures through skin contact. But we're just like, I guess they're in the water everywhere, and we normalize it. Because if we don't normalize it, then Big Pharma would have to, like, I don't know, be held accountable. But yeah. So I've been, like, trying to figure out how to hold anyone accountable for this and who gets held accountable, right? And then who is actually held accountable, right? Like, is it the pharmacy school whose curriculum is actually written by Big Pharma? Or is it Big Pharma? And if it's Big Pharma, like, who's gonna sue them? Like, I'm not required to do that, right? Because I don't have the resources. I can't. Like, I literally can't do that alone. I actually need community help. And the unfortunate thing is that a lot of our systems in place are very much set up to protect corporate interests. Obviously, the school system, I feel quite betrayed by at this point. You know, a decade of my life after graduating high school, pretty much, spent on more schooling, just to end up in this situation where I'm not even ethically or morally aligned with what the fuck they're doing. It's pretty fucking disappointing. And it makes a girl sit and wonder, well, what the fuck was all that school for then? Why did I do all that? If a degree like pharmacy isn't honest. And now what is it? My responsibility to go back to school for fucking something else? Because that's what I was trying to do now. I guess. Go back to school for environmental science. But even then, I mean, I go back to school. I started it already at UWGB. I'm going back. But you know what they're trying to do now? They're trying to teach me about minerals. And they don't even want to fucking talk about the reality about minerals. They're like, rubies, sapphires, they're beautiful. Anybody like rubies and sapphires? Yeah, they're great. You should buy some sometime. Here's what a ruby is. It's all these different chemicals, their chemical structure, and electrons and stuff. That's what a ruby is. And I'm like, rubies are sourced from slavery.